Yeah, so 15 minutes is not a long time for me because I still talk like a Southerner. I haven't got your Northern accent yet. So also please forgive my Windows 95 graphics on my PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, so the project that we did at West Virginia, a 2-year project, was supported by the Climate Hub, and we had a lot of collaborators. Dr. Annette Erickson, who's here for West Virginia State University. Dr. Lewis Jett, he's the extension specialist for West Virginia in horticulture. The Department of Agriculture supported this project, as well as a farm collaborator, Terry Hudson. So we'll talk a little bit about, you've heard all about the climate change. All of you are probably pretty well versed on what's happening. And in West Virginia, we're a little bit different. I just saw the presentation from a dairy farmer, I think in New York. We've had warmer, there she is. We've had warmer than average early winters and late falls, which you think would be good for vegetable growers. We get our plants in earlier and keep them in later. But we haven't had a yearly deviation in our frost dates. So a couple years ago, we had really warm temperatures in April, 70 degrees. A bunch of people planted corn, sweet corn, wanted to start getting their plants out. Their vegetable starts out the 1st of May. May 13th, it was 23 degrees, and it wiped everything out. Our frost date's May 15th. Same happens in October. We'll get into October. First part will be nice and warm, and then around the 15th of October, we'll get a killing frost, and then it might not frost again until December. So we're not getting the benefit of this extra long warm period, these growing degree days. We're not seeing a deviation from the annual average precipitation, but we're seeing more heavy rainfall events. And in West Virginia, for us, a heavy rainfall event is maybe a 2-inch-an-hour storm. It causes a lot of flooding because we have hills, we have heavy soils, we don't drain very well. It has a lot of impact on us. The other thing I wanted to talk about, there's a perceived increase in insect populations. We haven't had an entomologist look into this and do counts and quantify it. Someone else in the Northeast may have done it. One of the crops I'm going to be talking about, 2 of the crops are cucurbits. We've seen a lot more, anecdotally, we've seen a lot more cucumber beetles a lot earlier, and we've seen a second generation of some cucurbit insects like the squash vine borer where we hadn't seen before. And again, our intense rainfall events, when you're talking about vegetables, not only does it increase your disease incidence, it can hurt your fruit quality. So even on potatoes, if you think about a potato forming, potatoes like to have a steady amount of moisture throughout their growing season. If you have a lot of rain and you get dry, and a lot of rain you get dry, they'll crack, they'll bust. Things like tomatoes, we have a lot of problems with tomatoes cracking and busting because, as you can imagine, the older varieties, the heirloom varieties that our smaller growers like to grow, when you get really heavy rainfall events, they have a tendency to open up. And flooding has been a problem in West Virginia. A lot of our arable soils are actually in floodplains because we're in valleys. And as we have more intense rainfall, we get these quick flash floods. We have had a couple 1,000-year floods in the last 5 years in 2 different parts of the state. They've completely wiped out towns. Hopefully that's not going to continue too frequently. So high tunnels, I'm going to talk about high tunnels. NRCS started doing a cost share years ago. Most of you are probably familiar with it. And we have a lot of high tunnels in West Virginia where we didn't have any about 10 years ago. As you know, it's a protected culture for earlier plantings. And for us, again, I just saw a presentation from New York. They were dry. They've had drought the last 2 years. We haven't had a drought for years. Our problem is controlling soil moisture. We have too much rain for vegetables. Inside of a high tunnel, we can control that moisture with drip irrigation. And we have had a problem with tomatoes with septoria leaf spot and early blight. And a lot of that comes from soil splashing. 2 years ago, we had almost no tomatoes, no yellow squash early in the year because we had on and off for about 40 days, we had rain every day. And it was devastating to our tomato growers. But our guys who had them in high tunnels, some of our farmers have 4 to 5 high tunnels, all tomatoes. They made a killing that year. They were the only ones with tomatoes. I grew pumpkins on no-till, and I made a lot of money too because they didn't die. But not a lot of money, but so. Does anyone here have high tunnels? Work with farmers who have high tunnels? Are familiar? Okay, so I'll go over this then. So usually your planting schedule, especially in West Virginia, we would grow we'd plant our greens in the fall, we harvest them in the spring, and we follow up with a fruiting crop, something like tomatoes, peppers, maybe eggplants. And then we would do it again the next year. But because of what I talked about before, we had these really long falls. Because we're not getting the low temperatures consistently in the fall, our tomatoes were able to survive the last couple years until maybe the 15th of December. And you can pick tomatoes in the high tunnel till the 15th of December, which is great, but you miss your window to plant your greens. So we're looking for another crop to put in if you're not going to grow greens. A lot of people are growing strawberries. Anyone here grow strawberries? Yeah, so in West Virginia, we're growing them a lot in high tunnels. And if you've ever grown strawberries outside, you know why it's easier to do them in high tunnels. You don't have to worry about the frost. You don't have to worry about a lot of the birds, some of the insects. So our strawberry growers are going in the fall. They're harvesting in the early summer, and then they have kind of a window there. They're looking for a crop to put in that high tunnel between the next time they put their strawberries in. And since everyone was following that schedule of planting lettuce, everyone started planting lettuce at the same time and having lettuce at the same time, and the market got saturated really quick. So we're looking for some other crops. So that's the aim of our trial. We were looking at zucchini early, midsummer planting of cantaloupe to kind of hit that window between your strawberries, and then a midwinter crop of garlic. We use parthenocarpic zucchini, different varieties of garlic, and the cantaloupe was for farm to school, and I'll go over that data right now. This is our high tunnel, 30 by 72, West Columbia, West Virginia, which is on the Ohio River. If you saw some of the maps where I just saw a map of early spring for 2018, we were in the area where it's 20 days early this year. So we're seeing, especially these last couple years, we've seen really early spring, warm temperatures in the spring. We have a sandy loam soil, plenty of nutrients like most high tunnels, and a pH in 6.6. So the parthenocarpic varieties of zucchini, we did this because our growers were trying to put in zucchinis and squash early in a high tunnel, and it was so early they didn't have any pollinators. They didn't have pollinators, they didn't have any squash or zucchini. Well, parthenocarpic is Greek for virgin fruit. You have fruit that comes up, it doesn't need to be pollinated. It comes out as a little baby zucchini, and it keeps growing. The ones that are for sale as parthenocarpic are Parthenon, Easy Pick Green, Easy Pick Gold. Cornell did a trial, and they tried a whole bunch of different zucchinis and squashes in 2013. Two other ones that are not advertised as parthenocarpic but showed those traits were Noche and Golden Glory. So we tried all these different varieties in the high tunnel, 3 reps, 5 plants per rep. We spaced them 2 feet in row, 6 feet between, and we transplanted them in on April the 4th, and we transplanted them. Usually you would direct seed, but we wanted to get them in early, get them producing, so we went ahead and we did them as starts. We put a row cover on them early to keep any of the frost off if we had really cold nights, which we didn't. I kept the row cover on until they started to fruit, just to confirm each one of them were going to have parthenocarpic traits. So we were able to start harvesting May 16th. Well, I just told you our last frost is about May 15th, so that got us marketing zucchini before anyone else could even get it planted. And that's important because if anyone here has grown zucchini, by the time the old man down the road has his garden full of zucchini and gives it to everybody, you can't sell it anymore. What we wanted to do was get about a 1 pound zucchini, a small one about like this was our goal, and that was for CSAs, maybe farm to school if they would take them, but a lot of our premium customers, people at farmers markets who want them, they wanted these small zucchinis that they can just slice open and eat. So 8-9 inches long. What we found, Parthenon and Noche and Easy Pick Gold. We had about 100 marketable fruit out of there. Golden Glory and Easy Pick Green a little bit less. So in this trial, the Parthenon, let me see, I had a picture here. Yeah, so this one is the Parthenon. It's a little bit duller color, and that's the Noche. So that gives you gives farmers three different options of colors, and each one of them did pretty well. Talk about garlic. We had 19 varieties. We used this pre-punch paper, and we spaced. That's 5.5 inch spacing. We put that in January 9th. That was kind of our window there. After we pulled those tomatoes out, let's say before Christmas, gave us a break, and we went right back in with garlic. Harvested them the 23rd, and we took the weights of them. So does anyone here grow garlic or know about garlic? So you know a lot more about this than me, but these are from the farm in Oregon, the organic farm, Fairley, I think, organic farm. The ones that did the best in the high tunnel were Enchilium Red and Purple Glazer, an artichoke, and a purple stripe type. All these soft neck varieties did terrible. They didn't yield hardly at all. When we looked at the bulb, the individual bulb weight, again, we had these artichoke type and the purple stripe type did really well, and some of those soft necks didn't get very big at all. They didn't perform very well. In our cantaloupe, this is a pretty cool little cantaloupe called Sugar Cube. It gets about this big. It's I think it was 2.2 pounds. We did it on a trellis system. We put it in July 11th. That would kind of give us our little window between when people took their strawberries out and put them back in. We harvested them the September 12th. We had 250 marketable fruit out of that whole high tunnel out of 96 plants, and the raccoons ate the rest. I think people might have taken some, but I blamed it on the raccoons. The Brix was 12, which is really sweet. This was for farm to school, and there's a potential pharmacy use. We had some friends who were on chemotherapy and some terminal people with terminal illness that didn't have any appetite. This was one of the only things that they would eat. They really enjoyed the taste of that cantaloupe, and it was something that they could digest. So there might be a potential for that if anybody is doing pharmacy. So that'll conclude my presentation. I just wanted to thank those people, including Johnny Seeds, who supplied us seeds, the Lake and Farm and Department of Ag, and a few other farmers that helped us do Farm to School.